Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Grant sat in his car, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a palpable anticipation. He had arrived at a decision, one that seemed almost out of character for his conventional self. It was the challenge proposed by his cousin, Amanda, that had stirred something within him. During their recent coffee meeting, she had made a compelling point about the contrasting shopping experiences between men and women. Venture into the realm of retail as a woman, and you'll see how different the world can be. Amanda's words echoed in his mind. Initially dismissing it as a mere light-hearted suggestion, Grant found his curiosity piqued as the days went by. As a 32-year-old software engineer, he prided himself on being open-minded and empathetic. Yet he had to admit there was a lot about women's everyday experiences that he took for granted or failed to fully understand. So here he was, about to embark on a day of shopping while presenting as a woman. Amanda had helped him prepare, lending him clothes and giving him a crash course in makeup application. Now, as he gazed at his reflection in the rearview mirror, Grant barely recognized himself. His auburn hair, normally cropped short, was hidden beneath a shoulder-length wig of the same rich reddish-brown hue. Mascara and eyeliner accentuated his hazel eyes, while a touch of blush and lipstick softened his features. A white blouse hugged his torso, which had been carefully padded to create the illusion of a feminine figure. A black pencil skirt clung to his hips, ending just above the knee. On his feet were a pair of red pumps with a modest 2-inch heel. Grant took another steadying breath and opened the car door, swinging his legs out carefully. He stood, wobbling slightly as he adjusted to the unfamiliar footwear. With measured steps, he made his way across the parking lot, hyper-aware of how different his body felt and moved in these clothes. As he approached the mall entrance, Grant caught sight of his reflection in the glass doors. For a moment, he didn't recognize the auburn-haired woman staring back at him. He blinked, and the illusion solidified. This was Lauren, the persona he and Amanda had created for this experiment. The doors slid open with a whoosh, and Lauren, stepped into the bustling mall. Immediately, she was enveloped by the cacophony of voices, music, and the general din of commerce. She paused, momentarily overwhelmed by the sensory input and the weight of what she was about to do. A group of teenage girls brushed past, giggling and chattering. Lauren felt their eyes flick over her, assessing her outfit in that quick, unconscious way she'd seen women do countless times before. For the first time, she felt the weight of that gaze from the other side. Squaring her shoulders, Lauren strode forward, her heels clicking against the polished floor. She had a mental list of stores to visit, curated by Amanda to give her a well-rounded experience of shopping as a woman. First stop, a trendy clothing boutique that catered to young professionals. As she entered the store, a perky sales associate with a blonde ponytail approached. "Hi there! Welcome to Chic Couture. Can I help you find anything today?" Lauren cleared her throat nervously, pitching her voice higher. "Just browsing, thanks." The associate nodded, her smile never wavering. "Of course! Let me know if you need any help. We just got in some gorgeous new blouses that would look amazing with your coloring." Lauren mumbled a thank you and moved deeper into the store, running her hands over racks of silky fabrics and structured blazers. She pulled out a navy blue dress, holding it up against her body and turning towards a mirror. "Oh, that would be stunning on you." The sales associate materialized beside her. "It's one of our most flattering cuts. Would you like to try it on?" Lauren hesitated. She hadn't planned on actually using the fitting rooms. That felt like a step too far. but the expectant look on the associate's face made her feel pressured to say yes. Sure, she heard herself say. Why not? The associate beamed. Wonderful. I'll start a room for you. Feel free to keep browsing. I'll add anything else you'd like to try to your room. Lauren nodded, suddenly feeling out of her depth. She wandered the store, picking up a few more items at random to justify the fitting room. By the time she made her way to the back of the store, her arms were laden with clothes. The fitting room attendant, a middle-aged woman with graying hair, gave her a kind smile. Right this way, dear. Room 3 is all set up for you. Lauren stepped into the small cubicle, hanging the clothes on the provided hooks. She stared at herself in the mirror, wondering how on earth she was going to manage trying on clothes without giving herself away. Taking a deep breath, she carefully removed the white blouse, keeping her padded bra in place. She slipped the navy dress over her head, tugging it down over her hips. The fabric clung in unfamiliar ways, accentuating curves that weren't really there. How's it going in there? The sales associate's voice called out. Do you need any other sizes? I'm fine, thanks, Lauren replied, her voice higher than usual with nerves. She turned in front of the mirror, taking in her transformed appearance. The dress did look good, she had to admit. It made her waist appear smaller and gave the illusion of hips where there were none. A knock on the door made her jump. Sorry to bother you, the associate said, but I found a statement necklace that would pair perfectly with that dress. Mind if I pass it to you? Before Lauren could respond, a hand appeared over the top of the door, dangling a chunky gold necklace. She took it, mumbling thanks, and tried to fasten it around her neck with trembling fingers. The whole experience was surreal. Lauren had been in plenty of fitting rooms before, but always on the other side of the door, waiting patiently while a girlfriend or sister tried on clothes. Being on this side felt completely different, vulnerable and exposed in a way she hadn't anticipated. After trying on a few more outfits, Lauren changed back into her original clothes, relieved to be back in familiar territory. She emerged from the fitting room, arms full of rejected garments. Find anything you like? The associate asked brightly. Lauren shook her head. Not today, thanks. A flicker of disappointment crossed the woman's face before her professional smile reasserted itself. No problem. Please come back and see us again soon. As Lauren left the store, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had somehow let the associate down by not making a purchase. Was this something women dealt with every time they went shopping? Her next stop was the makeup counter at a high-end department store. As she approached, she was struck by the sheer variety of products on display. Rows upon rows of lipsticks, eyeshadows, and foundations in every conceivable shade stretched out before her. A makeup artist with impeccably winged eyeliner and bold red lips greeted her. Hello, beautiful. What can I help you with today? Lauren faltered, realizing she hadn't thought this far ahead. I'm looking to update my look, she improvised. Maybe try some new eyeshadow colors? The artist's face lit up. Absolutely! With your gorgeous auburn hair and hazel eyes, I have some fantastic shades in mind. Why don't you have a seat, and we'll play around a bit? Before she knew it, Lauren found herself perched on a high stool, a cape draped around her shoulders to protect her white blouse. The makeup artist, whose name tag read Melissa, began removing Lauren's existing makeup with gentle, practiced movements. So, tell me about your usual routine, Melissa chatted as she worked. Do you prefer a natural look, or are you open to something more dramatic? Lauren panicked internally, trying to recall everything Amanda had told her about makeup. Usually pretty natural, she said. But I'm open to trying something new. Melissa nodded approvingly. That's what I like to hear. Let's start with a medium coverage foundation to even out your skin tone, and then we'll focus on bringing out those beautiful eyes of yours. For the next half hour, Lauren sat still as Melissa applied layer after layer of products to her face. She marveled at the artistry involved, the way each brush stroke and blend transformed her features subtly but noticeably. Now for the finishing touch, Melissa said, holding up a tube of lipstick. This shade of coral will complement your coloring perfectly. As Melissa applied the lipstick, Lauren couldn't help but think about how different this experience was from his usual grooming routine. A quick shower, a swipe of deodorant, maybe some hair gel. That was typically the extent of it. This level of effort and attention to detail was entirely new. And we're done, Melissa announced, spinning Lauren's chair to face the mirror. What do you think? Lauren blinked at her reflection, stunned. The woman staring back at her was undeniably attractive, with smoky eyes that made her hazel irises pop and cheekbones that seemed to have materialized out of nowhere. Wow, she breathed. It's amazing. Melissa beamed. I'm so glad you like it. Now, let me show you the products we used so you can recreate this look at home. What followed was a whirlwind tour of various cosmetics, each with its own specific purpose and technique. Lauren's head spun as she tried to keep track of primers, concealers, highlighters, and bronzers. By the end, she found herself clutching a bag full of products she wasn't entirely sure how to use. As she left the makeup counter, Lauren caught sight of herself in a mirrored column. The contrast between her made-up face and the rest of her appearance was jarring. She tugged self-consciously at the hem of her skirt, wondering if people could tell something was off. Her final destination for the day was perhaps the most daunting, the lingerie department. Lauren's steps slowed as she approached, taking in the sea of lace, silk, and satin in every color imaginable. A saleswoman with a tape measure draped around her neck approached. Can I help you find anything, dear? Lauren swallowed hard. I'm just looking for some basics, she managed to say. The saleswoman nodded understandingly. Of course. Do you know your size? Or would you like a fitting? The idea of a bra fitting sent a jolt of panic through Lauren. I know my size, she lied quickly. I'll just browse, thanks. As the saleswoman moved away, Lauren wandered through the aisles, feeling increasingly out of place. She ran her fingers over delicate fabrics, marveling at the intricacy of some of the designs. How did women choose from all these options? And how did they wear some of these complicated-looking contraptions under their clothes without it showing? She picked up a simple black bra, checking the tag and trying to decipher the sizing system. As she did, she noticed an older woman giving her a strange look. Lauren quickly put the bra back, her face burning with embarrassment. Moving to a different section, she found herself surrounded by an array of shapewear. Spanx, waist cinchers, bodysuits. The variety was overwhelming. Lauren picked up a corset-like garment, wincing as she imagined how restrictive it must feel. First time shopping for shapewear? A friendly voice asked. Lauren turned to see a curvy woman in her 40s smiling at her. Is it that obvious? She asked, her voice higher than usual with nerves. The woman laughed. We've all been there, honey. It's a bit overwhelming at first. What are you looking for specifically? I'm not really sure, Lauren admitted. Just Exploring my options, I guess. The woman nodded sagely. Well, my advice? Comfort is key. All the smoothing and shaping in the world isn't worth it if you can't breathe. Start with something simple and work your way up if you feel you need more support. Lauren nodded gratefully, touched by the woman's kindness. Thank you. That's really helpful. As the woman moved on, Lauren realized she'd been holding her breath. She exhaled slowly, feeling a newfound appreciation for the complexity of women's fashion choices. After another 15 minutes of aimless wandering, Lauren decided she'd had enough. She made her way out of the lingerie department, her mind reeling from the day's experiences. As she walked through the mall towards the exit, Lauren found herself hyper-aware of her surroundings in a way she'd never been before. She noticed the looks she received from passers-by, some admiring, some dismissive, some uncomfortably lingering. She felt the weight of societal expectations in every window display, every advertisement, every interaction. Finally, she pushed through the mall doors and into the fading afternoon light. The parking lot was less crowded now, and Lauren's car sat waiting like a beacon of normalcy. Once inside the vehicle, Lauren let out a long, shaky breath. She caught sight of herself in the rearview mirror. Auburn hair slightly mussed, makeup still impeccable thanks to Melissa's skills. For a moment, she barely recognized herself. As she drove home, Lauren's mind raced with everything she'd experienced. The pressure to make purchases, the vulnerability of the fitting room, the artistry and effort involved in applying makeup, the overwhelming array of lingerie options. Each aspect of the day had opened her eyes to a world she'd only peripherally been aware of before. By the time she pulled into her driveway, Grant, had come to a profound realization. This experiment had given him just a tiny glimpse into the daily experiences of women, and it was both eye-opening and humbling. He made his way inside, eager to remove the unfamiliar clothes and wash off the makeup. But as he did so, Grant knew he'd be carrying the lessons of this day with him for a long time to come. He reached for his phone, composing a message to Amanda.
You were right. I had no idea. Thank you for challenging me to do this. I have so much to tell you.
Grant hit send, then sat down heavily on his bed. He ran a hand through his short hair, the wig now discarded, and marveled at how such a simple experiment could so profoundly change his perspective. He knew he'd never look at shopping, or women's experiences in general, the same way again. As he reflected on the day's events, Grant felt a mix of emotions wash over him. There was embarrassment at his initial naivety, amazement at the complexity of women's fashion and beauty routines, and a deep sense of respect for the mental and emotional labor involved in navigating societal expectations of femininity. He thought about all the times he'd waited impatiently while a girlfriend tried on clothes or applied makeup, never fully appreciating the thought and effort that went into those processes. He recalled instances where he'd made offhand comments about women's appearances or choices, now cringing at his own insensitivity. Grant stood up and walked to his closet, eyeing his own wardrobe with new appreciation for its simplicity. The row of nearly identical button-down shirts and slacks seemed almost comically straightforward compared to the dizzying array of options he'd encountered in the women's clothing stores. He picked up the bag of makeup products he'd purchased earlier, turning each item over in his hands. The techniques Melissa had demonstrated now seemed like a complex art form, requiring skill, practice, and a deep understanding of color theory and facial structure. As he set the bag aside, Grant's phone buzzed with a response from Amanda.
I'm so proud of you for doing this, cuz. Can't wait to hear all about it. Dinner tomorrow?
Grant smiled, typing back a quick affirmative response. He was eager to share his experiences with Amanda, to hear her perspective on what he'd observed and felt throughout the day. Settling back onto his bed, Grant closed his eyes and let the events of the day replay in his mind. The nerves he'd felt walking into the mall, the vulnerability in the fitting room, the sensory overload at the makeup counter, the bewilderment in the lingerie department. Each moment had peeled back a layer of his preconceptions about women's experiences. He thought about the saleswomen he'd encountered, their practiced smiles and relentless cheerfulness. How many difficult customers did they deal with in a day? How did it feel to have their income partially dependent on convincing people to buy things they might not need? The makeup artist, Melissa, came to mind next. Grant marveled at her skill and artistry, the way she'd transformed his features with seemingly effortless brushstrokes. He wondered about the pressure she must feel to always look perfect, to be a walking advertisement for her craft. And then there was the kind stranger in the lingerie department. Her casual camaraderie, the way she'd reached out to help someone she perceived as being overwhelmed. It spoke to a shared experience, a silent understanding among women that Grant had never fully grasped before. As his mind wandered, Grant found himself considering broader implications. How did these daily experiences, the constant awareness of one's appearance, the pressure to conform to beauty standards, the mental calculus involved in choosing an outfit, affect women's lives in the long term? How did it impact their confidence, their career choices, their relationships? He thought about his female colleagues in the tech industry, suddenly wondering how much additional mental and emotional labor they were carrying that he'd been oblivious to. Did they feel the same pressure to look a certain way in client meetings that he'd felt walking through the mall? Grant sat up, reaching for a notebook on his bedside table. He began jotting down his observations and questions, knowing he wanted to explore these ideas further. Perhaps there was a way he could use this experience to foster greater empathy and understanding in his workplace, or among his male friends. As he wrote, Grant felt a profound sense of gratitude towards Amanda for suggesting this experiment. It had been uncomfortable, yes, even mortifying at times, but it had also been incredibly illuminating, pushing him out of his comfort zone and challenging his assumptions in ways he hadn't expected. He realized that this day of shopping, as Lauren, was just the tip of the iceberg. There were so many aspects of women's experiences that he still didn't fully understand: workplace dynamics, safety concerns, health issues, and more. But this experiment had opened his eyes and sparked a desire to learn more, to listen more, to be a better ally. Grant set his notebook aside and stood up, stretching muscles that were surprisingly sore from a day in unfamiliar shoes and clothes. He caught sight of himself in the mirror. No makeup, no wig, just his usual self. But the man looking back at him had been fundamentally changed by the day's experiences. As he got ready for bed, Grant made a mental note to thank Amanda again tomorrow. Not just for the idea, but for trusting him to take it seriously, for believing he was capable of this kind of growth and understanding. He climbed into bed, his mind still buzzing with new perspectives and insights. As he drifted off to sleep, Grant knew that while he could take off the clothes and wash away the makeup, the lessons he'd learned would stay with him. It had been just one day, just one small glimpse into a different life, but its impact would ripple out into many tomorrows.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!